Good morning, boys and girls. Today we are going to be reading about another president. Yesterday you learned about Thomas Jefferson. Today you are going to be learning about Abraham Lincoln. And before we get started, our vocabulary for today, the words are proclaim. That means to announce for the public to hear. Reputation is the main quality seen by others about a person. And serious means not cheerful or smiling. Okay. If I asked you what you kept under your hat, you might laugh and say, "My head. What else would I keep under my hat?" President Abraham Lincoln kept his head under his hat, too. You may have seen pictures of a tall, bearded man wearing his tall black hat, but sometimes Mr. Lincoln kept something more than his head under there, too. Here is the story of what lay beneath Abraham Lincoln's hat. So here's Abraham Lincoln, and there's his big tall hat. So we're going to find out, what does he keep under that hat? Abraham Lincoln was a busy man surrounded by many other busy men who helped him make important decisions. They grew impatient when they had to wait to meet with the president, so on this particular day, as they walked to see their chief, President Abraham Lincoln, they were not in a good mood. They became even angrier when they entered President Lincoln's office and found him in his rocking chair, his long legs stretched out before him, holding a book and laughing out loud. Each man thought, "We are in the middle of a war. Does the president think we have nothing better to do than to listen to him laugh? We do not like war. We do not like sending people off to fight. We worry all the time about whether we are going to do the best jobs we can." Yet he does not look worried, even though he is in charge of the whole war. Lincoln asked the men to sit down. He said, "Welcome, gentlemen. Before we get down to business, listen to this joke." The men listened as the president read the joke out loud. Then he laughed again. But no one else laughed. One said, "Mr. President, did you ask us here in order to read us a joke? That is a waste of our time." Lincoln set down his book. His face became serious. "That is not why I called you here," he said. "But running a war, knowing that people will get hurt or killed, is a sad business. When I can laugh, I do. For if I do not laugh, I might cry. I thought you could use a laugh, too." He stood up, all 6 feet 4 inches of him. That was a lot taller than most men in his time. Walking to his desk, he picked up his tall black hat and reached inside. Pulling out a folded piece of paper, he said, "I have been carrying this paper inside my hatband for more than 3 months, waiting for the right day to show it to you. Today is the day. I have word that our army has won a great battle. Perhaps we are beginning to win this terrible war at last. Now I feel safe in telling people what I want to do next." When George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and others started the United States 100 years ago, they tried to make a country in which people could be free to do as they wished, and to travel wherever they chose to go. They did many wonderful things, but they failed to do one important thing. They did not end slavery in America. Being a slave was the worst thing a person could be. A slave had to do whatever he or she was told. The slave did not get paid to work, but only received very plain food to eat, clothes to wear, often old clothes, and a place to sleep. The slave could not choose to leave or decide how to live his or her life. Some of the people who started the United States said, "Slavery is a terrible thing. We must not allow it in our new country. We believe in freedom. How could we have slaves here?" But other people answered, "Slavery's fine. The rest of us will be free to decide things for ourselves, but slaves will not." If you say there will be no slavery, we will not help start the new country. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and their friends knew slavery was wrong, but they thought, "We need slaves to help us start the country. Afterward, we can end slavery." But after America was born, year after year, many people still held on to slavery. The year before Thomas Jefferson died, he called slavery a tornado that will burst on us sooner or later. He feared there would be a war between those who wanted to end slavery and those who supported it. Abraham Lincoln was born in Illinois the year Jefferson finished being president. Lincoln was born to a poor family living in the forest in a tiny cabin made of logs. His parents did not know how to read or write. Lincoln had to work hard to help them. And since he was a fair, honest person, he grew up believing everyone who worked should be paid fairly and treated fairly. Later, as a young lawyer, he gained a reputation for being the most honest lawyer in Illinois and was known by the nickname Honest Abe. Lincoln hated slavery. However, he also hated war, and when he became president, he tried to prevent the war from starting. But too many people on both sides were angry about many different issues, including slavery. In the South, there were large areas of land, farm, and that is the area where there were the most slaves. Because of this, the nation divided the North against the South. People in most southern states decided, we'll start our own country that allows slavery. The North, with Lincoln as president, refused to let the South do that, saying, we should be one country and we should not allow slavery. The war Thomas Jefferson had warned us against began. This was the U.S. Civil War. Okay, down here, this is the South. These are the southern states. And we live up here in New York State. We live up here in the North. On the day that President Lincoln invited these men from the government to his office, he told them, I am going to announce that slaves in southern states will now be free. According to the law, I wrote that law on paper. I have been carrying it in my hat. I called the law the Emancipation Proclamation. I'll proclaim that the slaves are emancipated. Anyone who doesn't let them go is breaking the law. President Lincoln went on, everyone must understand that America is truly a land of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, just as Thomas Jefferson wrote. The other men replied, Mr. President, we will gladly listen to your jokes if this is what happens afterward. But even after President Lincoln told everyone about the new law, many people who supported slavery would not give up. It took nearly 3 more years of war before the Army of the South surrendered to Lincoln's Northern Army. The war ended. Now slavery was over, and the important paper that helped make it happen was what Abraham Lincoln had carrying under his hat. Okay. All right, I will put the comprehension questions in the notes, and you guys can answer those later on. I hope you enjoyed learning about Abraham Lincoln.